All right, welcome everyone to the Proactive Health Collective of Keene.
There.
What's that?
I said, hi there.
Hi there.
Hi
So
there,
I'm
everyone.
I'm Dr. Gene Clerkin with Monadnock Natural Health, and Rebecca Montrone with Wondrous Roots, and we will have a couple of other colleagues joining us here shortly. And I think we're just getting set up on streaming this to Facebook. So if you're out there in Facebook land, welcome.
Yeah.
You got it
I'm
going
trying
yet?
to do that. I'm trying to do that. Okay, let's go live on Facebook. Okay, let's do that. Are we still?
And yeah, today's topic, I guess we're going to be, Rebecca has been lucky enough to experience getting COVID. And so she's going to share some of her experiences. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that a little bit, which is always a fun talk. Fun thing to talk about, I should say.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about it when you can talk about it, and it's good. It's good, and it's not going to just be me. It's Allison Millard just recently had COVID too.
Did you really? That's right. She did say that.
Yeah. So she's back. She's back in the saddle. I've been able to hope that we're doing this now.
I feel a little left out, you know. I should have the opportunity as well.
I think what I want to do is let people know that I think in order to see this streaming, you're going to have to go to my Rebecca Montrone Facebook page.
Oh, you're not streaming it to Proactive?
Well, I just tried to do it and that's where it took it. So, I mean, you can definitely go to mine and
you're talking about your personal page or your?
Yeah, my personal page. Yeah. Looks like that's where it went.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So you can always share it maybe you can do that, Gene, to the Proactive Health Collective of Keene website, Facebook page and see. But anyway, I can monitor any comments or anything like that, questions from my page. I can keep checking in there. So we are getting it, and these are always recorded in the Zoom cloud, and so that means that they end up eventually on our YouTube page. So anyway, welcome all of you who are attending. It's nice to see you. And what happened with us was about a week. It was a Saturday before Thanksgiving, and my husband Dale started coming down with cold symptoms. We didn't really think that much of it. And it was late Tuesday night. I felt weird. I felt like headachy, which is unusual for me. And I felt like aches and pains up in these muscles here. And so I finally took some ibuprofen just to get that pain level down so I could go to sleep. I woke up feeling.
What was the pain? Good. Was the pain in your head?
It was in my head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My head. And that I did wonder, because I know that that's a classic COVID symptom, early COVID symptom for some people. Headache is one of the classic things. And so anyway, I got up the next day and I felt pretty good. So I felt like I was fighting a cold, and I went to work. I did tell my staff, I feel like I'm fighting something, so let's keep a distance. I told any clients, that I feel like I'm fighting something, so let's keep a distance. And so I was careful that way, but went home after Wednesday night, and it was Thanksgiving, and it was on Thanksgiving. Dale noticed that he had lost his sense of smell and taste, and that's like a classic COVID thing. So we didn't get tested. We didn't need to be tested. I mean, it's just obvious, and it is it's definitely for, maybe some of you have had COVID, but it's very unique. It's not like a regular flu. It does. I didn't end up losing my taste and smell, which was really great, but I ended up for a few days with this really nasty smell that I just couldn't get away from. And you'll hear some people say that. It's like, I smell these weird smells. I smell things that are strange.
Yeah.
So of course, once I realized what was going on, and I have been keeping up with my nutrients and things completely, but you have to understand, if you're sharing living space with somebody who has this, it's very communicable, and you're probably going to get it. Just like flu runs through households and things like that. So I started doing the things that I've always told people to do. glutathione and extra vitamin D, and I started doing quercetin and, you know, my regular nutrients, bumping those up. And then one of the things we noticed that is really a hallmark with this is like a supreme fatigue. So my husband and I have both had mono. So we go back to remembering what that was like when you had mono, just not having any energy. You know, you would just do something and then you felt like you were just wiped out. And so, you know, I kind of started investigating that. What kind of an effect does COVID have on the mitochondrial energy of our bodies? Because that's what fuels our muscles and gives us all of that. And sure enough, I find that COVID uses your mitochondrial energy in order to facilitate its own evil deeds. And so I added in things that boost mitochondrial energy, you know, beyond glutathione, such as CoQ10, lipoic acid, acetyl L-carnitine. These are big contributors to boosting ATP, which is the energy from which all of our cells get fueled, but especially our muscles. And so this is what Dale is really finding is just this supreme muscular fatigue, especially like in the muscles surrounding the hips and the big, large muscles that you use to stand up and, you know, to do things like that. I did notice that for a couple of days, not severely, but just pain in those areas. And that, you know, was gone in a couple of days. I'm very, very fortunate because I feel good. You know, I feel, yeah, I don't feel like I don't have something, but I feel like I can function normally. And that's like really awesome. Yeah.
So you spent, essentially, you spent the week at home, just kind of.
Yeah. So what I did,
home.
Right. So that was really great because it was Thanksgiving weekend, right? So that was really awesome. Hi, Allison.
Hi.
I'm giving them a little bit of my like biography on this COVID thing, and then we'll
Yeah.
get sorry. But I did. So what was really great in a lot of ways was that it was Thanksgiving weekend, and so I wasn't going into the office. If I had not known or something, I might have gone back into the office. I don't think, you know, I might have gone in on Thursday, and I might have gone in. I'm kind of a stoic person. I'm not. If I'm not feeling great, it's not like I just stop everything. And so, you know, there was no contact with anybody there. And then what has worked out great is, and I ran like sale over the weekend and stuff. I had like so many online orders coming in. I'm like, what the heck are we going to do? And my staff has just been phenomenal. And I've been able to be in touch with them, like hang on out on Zoom in the background. So if we just want to talk to each other, fine, unless I'm using my Zoom for a client call. And then also just being able to, you know, they take pictures, I place orders for things. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for my staff because we really didn't miss a beat. And I haven't missed a single appointment with somebody because of this. So I'm just super grateful, but it is something to be reckoned with. It is not, it's not a light thing. And I can see how people, if they don't know what to do, can really end up in trouble. And so I'll talk a little bit later about that. We'll talk to Allison, but a little bit more about some of the things we really want to do, and that is protecting ourselves from the spike protein actually adhering to and locking into the RS2 receptors in the lungs and the kidneys and things like that. So there are several things we can do, and of course, my knowledge about that has totally expanded because, you know, you have to. This has driven me to learn more about it. Yeah.
Lucky you.
So,
I want to learn. Yeah. I want to know all that stuff.
yeah. So how about you? How are you doing? You were ahead of me on this. So.
Yeah. I missed our webinar 2 weeks ago. I was kind of in the midst of it. I've still got the only thing, it really wasn't too bad for me. The only thing that now I feel is just this little bit of like, kind of just a dry cough. But my boyfriend had some symptoms on Friday. He wasn't feeling very well and came on in the afternoon. So I decided to just stay, you know, with him. And his daughter didn't come home. We had her go to his mom's house. And so we just kind of isolated that weekend, and we got him a at-home COVID test. And so he tested positive on Saturday. So I figured it was a good time to just get exposed, build up some natural immunity. And also it's you know, like you were saying, Becky, you're lucky it was the Thanksgiving weekend. It's hard as a practitioner because it's, you know, you don't want to put someone in that position and then have to contact all your patients if you were symptomatic. So I figured, well, I feel great. I don't have any symptoms, and, you know, this would be a good time to just get it over with. So I
But you
did.
kind of like kind of knowingly said, okay, I'm going to let myself be exposed here. Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, like a chickenpox party.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't
Could have
start.
called me. I would have come over.
I know.
I know, that's what you said on Monday. Listen, can we have a COVID party? But I'm telling you, it is no party. It is, you really
Well,
don't
probably.
want
I mean,
this.
you know, Allison's probably a few years younger than us, right? So
I don't
when
know. I mean, I think I did really well with it. I think I've done great, really. When you think about it, I've not missed a beat. But I do want to say, yeah, it's not a pleasant thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been taking, so I didn't get symptoms until Wednesday. So he was
Okay.
symptomatic on Friday, and
Yep.
I was feeling totally fine. Maybe very weird, like temperature fluctuations, but I never got a fever the entire time.
Dale's first symptoms were Saturday and mine were Tuesday. Yours were his Friday. Yeah. It's
Friday
kind of
night.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes a while. You know what? My
Yeah.
boyfriend's very first, he was getting like kind of feverish as his first symptom, but the very first day, and my friend's boyfriend, this happened to as well. He had an old injury in his shoulder, and it was just excruciating. And my friend's boyfriend got like an old injury, it was just really painful. Like didn't feel like muscle aches or weird, just like actual, like the injury kind of.
Yeah, you know, I think there's obviously an inflammation piece to this whole thing.
Yep.
And, you know, I know in my own body, like when inflammation was going up in my body, where did it manifest first? In the old injuries, the knees.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You know, that's where it starts.
Wow. Yeah. And I think mine was more in like, because I was just thinking, because the way I sit at my computer all day, you know, and your shoulders are like this, like mine was all in that area. And I'm thinking, this is probably just from sitting at my computer all day, you know, it's just that feeling of tension and stuff like that. So,
I've been taking vitamin D and glutathione for a year, and at the onset I took, you know, the high dose of glutathione and the high dose of melatonin, and you know, I feel like I've been doing the quercetin and OSHA
Yep.
group, and I feel like I've done pretty darn well, but it's, you know, it still kind of kicked me on my butt. I was getting 12 hours of sleep.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think it's definitely something to be reckoned with, especially if you don't have the knowledge or the tools to
Yeah.
support you.
Well, I think,
Exactly.
if you don't know what to do, then you end up going, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Like, let me go to the hospital, and you're probably not going
Right.
to get any of those things there, right? You're going to get.
No, you're definitely not. And I think that this is, you know, I think it's really good for me as a practitioner. I don't want to suffer everything that my clients have. I have some really sick people with cancers and things like that, and I don't want to experience cancer in order to be better firsthand to understand my clients with cancer. I don't want that. But I will say with this, it's so much not theoretical now for me. It's like when somebody tells me how they're feeling, I can feel it. I can say, yep, I know exactly what that feels like. And this is what I think will help with that. And this is, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I think that sometimes is really, as a practitioner, you know, sometimes it's the things we suffer. You know, my own problems with infertility and miscarriages and things like that, my own things, you know, with Alzheimer's and my mother's family. And these are the things that help train us. If we pay attention, we become better practitioners with everything that we go through ourselves. And I think also, you know, Allison and I were talking about some of the things that can, when you're sick, that can like kind of screw you up, maybe spiritually or psychologically in the way you're thinking, like, why did this happen to me? Or, you know, so you think about people who, like, we might just be saying that about, people might say that about something temporary like COVID. And I would certainly say more like in a case that's more problematic. We might say that, but then, you know, you think about people who get up with a chronic illness every day, who get up and have to deal with their cancer and have to deal with things like that. And just that empathy that comes from thinking, you know, what is it like to just not have this go away in a week, that this isn't going to be gone in 2 weeks? And how do you pick up one foot and keep going and do it with a smile on your face and not let that illness define you as a person? I think that that's another whole realm of thought that comes to me as I think about, as I reflect on this.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, I've had that experience when I've struggled, you know, like autoimmune stuff. And for a decade, I didn't have any clues as to what to do. And I could feel in my body about 2 days before I would go into a flare up. I just had an awareness. And as soon as I had that awareness, even though I wasn't in any pain and it didn't affect me, something switched in my head. Like I went down, like, oh crap, here's what's coming. And I would get down, you know, on myself for that, just knowing that, okay, I got about a day to get some errands run because I'm going to be in bed for 2 weeks. So let me do that. So yeah, there is a mental emotional piece to that, especially with chronic things. And especially if you feel like you're never going to, you know, you might not get over it. And it seems to be getting worse as time goes on. Those are challenges for sure.
Yeah, and I do want to respond to a question here from Eugene asking about what kind of testing we did. And I want to say that I did not get tested. We did not get tested. We did not need to be tested, and it just wasn't necessary. When you've got these symptoms and you know they're classic COVID symptoms and somebody cannot taste and smell all of a sudden, and me having that really weird smell that I couldn't get away from, and the symptoms being what they were. With, you could tell, we don't own a thermometer, so I never took our temperatures, but you can tell when you have a fever. You can tell when you're feverish. You feel chilled, a little chilled, then you feel a little, you know, hot, or, you know, whatever. So I think the testing is, for the most part, well, for us, certainly not at all needed to diagnose. I mean, this is clearly what this is. And also that it is long lasting. So if Dale had had a cold, he would have well been long over his cold. And that's not the case. So, yeah.
I want to say something real quick on this, you know, like with getting tested and knowing whether you have it or don't have it. You know, when you're coming from a standpoint of like, how am I going to treat my body? And, you know, whatever you have, whatever it's COVID or something else, your strategy is still, let me support my immune system. Let me support with antioxidants. You know, it doesn't matter really what you have. That's the difference between like when you have to have a diet. Oh, you have this, and then this treatment goes for that. You're talking about, wow, my body's under some stress now. What can I do to, you know, shore up my ship, so to speak? You know, how can I help? It doesn't really matter if you did or didn't have this or that. What matters is how do I strengthen my body, regardless of what I do have.
It's a really good point. I think a lot of people are really want to know exactly what they're dealing with before they do anything for it, because they're so used to the Western medical system where you have to have a specific diagnosis and then a treatment for that problem. Whereas if you come at it from, like Dr. Jean is saying, you're just supporting your immune system. You're just supporting the natural health that's going to help your body get a upper hand on it. So really
or Allison, I'm sure you would check energy flow and, you know, whether there's dampness or dryness, or, you know, like it wouldn't matter what the name is. You would kind of go through your diagnosis in that way and help the body.
Yeah.
Just, you know, improved function.
If there's heat, the heat dampness, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So there's, you know, is it getting tested and recovering gives a testimony to share more publicly to cite natural immunity as a result? No, I wouldn't get tested for that reason. Again, the test wasn't necessary. This was no big mystery. You need a test if you don't know what the heck is going on. And I don't want anything stuck in my nose. I don't value the PCR tests. So I just don't need a test. I will eventually go and get myself tested for antibodies because I think that that's good information to have for yourself. And I'm glad to have it. I would like to also, and then we also have somebody asking in the Q&A about the remedies to have on hand. So maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I'm going to do it more in groupings of what we're trying to address. One of the things that I noticed, like when Dale said, I feel like I did when I had mono. And I remembered my father, who was the late George Wrench, compound pharmacist, he had determined that when people had mono, this is much later than when I had mono, they did much better if he gave them beta-glucan, which is a polysaccharide grown on oats, mushrooms, and yeast, the 1,3-D grown on yeast. If you gave them beta-glucan, which is a huge immune system booster, and B vitamins, and specifically extra B12. And he would have people diagnosed with mono who then, oh gosh, hang on. Okay, hang on.
Are we going to go to a call-in show now? Is that
Yeah,
going to be our format?
it's my daughter. So, but anyway, so I started looking into the role of the B vitamins in COVID, and yes, you can find all of that. So I went and got ourselves because I could go over the weekend, nobody was there, into my office, and I got Pure Genomics B by Pure Encapsulations, which is a really boosted up B vitamin supplement, and some hydroxy cobalamin B12 lozenges under the tongue. So we started doing that. So I think that is super important to go after these things. This is the thing, that whenever I work with anything, it's the slap it silly approach. It's not one thing. It's like you want to go for, how is this entity outsmarting you? How is it taking advantage of you? What are its mechanisms of action? And you want to really kind of address each one. And you don't have to use everything that addresses each one, but you want to address each one. And that's how I work with people with cancer, things like that, Parkinson's disease, things like that. So we do that. So we have that going on in there. I added the beta-glucan in. So this is all, I added monolaurin, which is from coconut oil, which is antiviral. So all the herpes viruses, things like that, which would also be Epstein-Barr, which is like mono. One of the big things that you really want to do, and I was excited, I just found out about neem. Neem is a plant, and we use different parts of it. We use the bark, and we use the leaves. It's especially useful for digestion, and it's especially useful for dental health. It's used it's sprayed on crops as an anti-bug, anti-insect kind of thing. But I found somebody, actually it was somebody I think who's on our call right now, who told me about neem, and neem being used to alternate as an alternative for ivermectin. And so I did look into that and found that, yes, there are studies there that show that neem works very similarly to ivermectin. And so I think that that's a great thing to have in the toolkit. So we have neem extract, leaf extract. And at first I thought it was only the bark that worked, but then I found a study where they actually used the leaves, and the leaves worked very well for this purpose. And so that's really important. There's another plant that works super well when it comes to, so what happens with COVID is you're creating the spike protein. The spike protein wants to attach to what we call the RS2 receptors in the body, and that's how it causes its damage. And so you want to stop that. You want to block it first, if possible. So I would say, in people's preventive COVID kits right now, I would have dandelion leaf in there. I would have pine needle extract, does the same thing. Definitely have the neem in there. And I just ordered also a bunch of bottles of capsules if people just don't want to deal with tinctures for the neem. Because I think if you can have something really safe like that and that works like ivermectin, that's a win-win for people in the preventive realm. So, but I also found out in doing the research on the dandelion that the dandelion not only prevents the locking into the RS2 receptors, but it also removes the spike protein. So it's a good even after that's already happened. And so, I think that there's that whole cluster of things when we talk about the spike protein, and then also the prevention with the neem, I think is really huge. I think that those things, especially, if you're going out and about, I think right now, in my experience, compared to last year, the number of people I know who are getting COVID, whether they're colleagues or clients or friends or whatever, or people emailing me, my so-and-so, my this and that. There is so much more COVID right now than there was last year this time. And I really do blame the vaccinations on that, for that, because people don't realize how much shedding there is of all of this crap out there into the atmosphere. You go and you get your shot and you're shedding spike protein, but you're also, the vaccinated are shown to have much higher loads of the actual virus itself. And so I think that a lot of us are getting COVID from the vaccinated, and that's documented a lot where people are tracing their contacts and things like that. And that's seen. They downplay that in the media, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, if the more and more we get vaccinated, the more and more cases we have of COVID, then something's wrong here. I mean, at the very least, it's not working, but why the increase? Why the increase? And I think we are in a more dangerous realm right now when it comes to being exposed to COVID out there in the general population.
The other thing on top of that, Becky, just real quick, is that it's very possible and looks probable that people's immune systems are not as robust after this treatment. I won't even call it a vaccine because it really isn't.
Right.
And we are seeing this without a doubt in our office because we got a fair mix of people who are and who aren't. And I'm just seeing, like people who are like never had a problem. They have 3, 4, infections, a sinus infection, or this or that, whatever, just other immune stuff, not COVID, but their immune systems are definitely struggling. So, and I don't know if it's a forever thing for them, but
I think
certainly in the short term.
I think so, unless they do something, really proactive to help shore that up. And we know that. We see graphs. I've got these, I keep on top of all of this stuff, and we see graphs of the general immune system since the vaccines in the vaccinated, and it's just a declining curve. I had a new client yesterday she's out in California, 44-year-old woman with really heartbreaking, just diagnosed stage 4 breast cancer. But it's, if you know anything about breast cancer and how it is, number one, it's inflammatory. So that's very rare. It's very aggressive. We find it in younger women. But she's also estrogen receptor positive, you would expect with most breast cancers, except for triple negative. And then, but also HER2 positive, which also is a more rapid growth of the cells in general. And so it increases it. And, she does have things in her past and her family that would kind of make it look like she would be predisposed to that. And she lives in California, which is an extremely toxic state when it comes to all of what's in the air, the pesticides, and, it's just, that kind of thing. But she said, so do I get a booster? And I said, no, no. And I said, and she said, oh, she goes, I probably shouldn't have gotten the shots. And she said, I got Moderna. And she said, he said, do you think that has anything to do with why I have cancer? And I said, I can tell you, we know that it does turn off these mRNA vaccines, if you will, do turn off natural killer cell activity. So I don't think that's behind. I don't think she had. And I said, how long did you have did you have them? 6 months ago. I wouldn't say I think that the vaccines caused this by any means, but it certainly, they did not help. You need everything in your body to your immune system functioning as best it can. And, when you do something like that alters the immune system function, we have no idea the can of worms we have opened here. And I think we are going to see many more cases of cancer, many more of definitely heart disease, heart attack, all of that kind of thing. But of course, the industry can simply distance itself from it and say there's no proof. They're trying to say right now that global warming is going to cause a rash of cardiac events in children in the next couple of years. I mean, really, you're going to try to blow this away with global warming?
Right. That's why professional soccer players all over the world are dropping dead on the field because of global warming.
Right. Yeah. It's, anyway. So,
So,
So what if someone's got, I had a patient tell me this today. She's kind of regretted. Oh, can you guys see me? I don't know.
yeah.
yep.
You can hear me? Oh, okay. She's like, well, what if I got the vaccine? You can't undo it. Are there things that people can do to sort of get their bodies back in line? Is this pine needle extract big in that?
I
Pine
think so.
needle.
Now, yeah, the pine needle extract definitely deals with the spike protein. There's something in white pine called suramin, which is an antidote to spike protein. So I first started recommending that to people when they were being exposed to the recently vaccinated, because we know that those people, we see symptoms in people who are routinely and exposed to people who have been vaccinated, having things like bruising, bleeding, especially in women, heavy periods and things like that after being exposed to people who have been vaccinated. Now let's look at the scenario. I mean, so yes, definitely that. I would also definitely say the dandelion leaf. I was actually recommending it for that at that point in time too. But definitely for this, for people who are recovering, I would say definitely do your mitochondrial energy boosting things for a few months, like CoQ10, lipoic acid, and L-carnitine. There are other mitochondrial boosting nutrients, but those are huge. So you want to, again, get all of that energy being made to fuel your muscles. Think about, so ATP, adenosine triphosphate, we go back to the Krebs cycle, and how we start to make less adenosine triphosphate around age 30, naturally. It's been called the decline of life's energy. So we're making less of that. Our mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of the cell, become, the mitochondria become fewer, larger, sloppier, less efficient. So what do? I've always called myself the mitochondriac, the glutathione girl and the mitochondriac. We always put nutrients in there that are replenishing mitochondrial energy. It's been called the decline of life's energy. So I used to be able to stack a cord of wood in half a day. Now it takes me half a week. I go to the gym and I do all the same reps, and I just don't develop the same lean body mass. My metabolism isn't kicked in like it used to be. So we want to really get on top of that. You want to really give your body the edge. And again, this would go to explaining why people who are older and have immune system functions that aren't as good as they should be, having worse cases with things like this. Let's also talk about medications. One of the classic drugs that many people who are older, almost everybody who's older, if they have any kind of anything, are put on a statin drug, which is a cholesterol lowering drug. The statin drugs really ripen the RS2 receptors to be affected by the spike protein. So we've got so much going on with our elderly population that goes way beyond, their mitochondrial energy being lower, their glutathione being lower, making less melatonin in the first place, but then also pharmaceuticals they might be taking that are giving this type of a virus more opportunity in their systems. And so it becomes a big mess. The other part of the big mess, and the criminal part of the big mess, is we know there are so many things at work. Like ivermectin, like hydroxychloroquine, like budesonide, and things that are very safe, that are very inexpensive, and we have been forbidden to use them. Doctors have been forbidden to use them. A doctor in Virginia just recently sued his hospital. He's a top doctor in the ICU, and he sued his hospital over being forbidden to use things he knows will save these people's lives. And we
won.
just had did he?
Yeah.
No, that's a different one. You're thinking about
one?
Yeah, you're thinking about the person who said, the judge said, no, I am ordering you to give this man ivermectin. That's a totally different thing, but it did save that man's life.
Right.
But this doctor, he's like, he's sick over this. He's like, I know how to save these people's lives and my hands are tied. I can't do it. So I'm suing the hospital. And the hospital, the day he sued them, put him on suspension. So this isn't about you, your health, and your safety. This is about profit. It is about plan. It is about an agenda that has been desired, and they are poisoning us with this glut of vaccinated people all the time, all the while telling us this is our fault because we're not vaccinated. And that's just defies all common sense, all common sense.
We have an interesting comment here. We have somebody from Missouri wondering, have you guys heard of a home remedy to make hydrochloroquine? 3 grapefruits and 3 lemons, the peels only, 3 cups filtered water, bring to a boil, lower heat to simmer 3 hours, covered, strain and cool down and store in the fridge.
I have
I've actually
not
heard that. I've
Yeah.
heard that.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, but I love hearing about this stuff from people. And then what I'll do is I go in and I look for the science that goes, oh, that makes sense. So what's in the peels, you would almost, okay, well, what's in there? Now I don't know about it's being hydroxychloroquine, but in the peels, that's what you have. That's where the bioflavonoids are. What's a bioflavonoid? Quercetin. Quercetin, we know, works very well to stop the inflammation and also the clotting that comes. And that I want to say to people, you want to shut down the clotting and the inflammation. The two go hand in hand. But these are the things that are going to come up to bite you if you get COVID. And that is the inflammation that's making it difficult for your blood to be oxygenated well enough to fuel your lungs. And then also the hyperclotting that can occur. And so, you know, I've made sure that the stuff that Dale and I are doing is definitely taking care of that and preventing any of those things. And part of that would be the quercetin. And quercetin is a bioflavonoid. The peels of citrus fruit are where we get our bioflavonoids. So I don't know. That's a possible connection. I'm not sure. I would have to look into it, but that's really interesting.
So I actually did get ivermectin for my boyfriend. His oxygen levels were really low, and I was pretty worried. He was really, really wiped out. And I brought him to the ER. He just doesn't want to swallow pills. He's like, doesn't want to do any of that stuff, which is a whole nother subject. And I have a huge appreciation for the role of a caregiver, especially if the person they're caring for makes decisions that they wouldn't personally make for themselves or doesn't follow sort of your advice and whatnot. It's a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
But anyways, he was open to the what's the group of doctors?
A frontline.
Yes, frontline
Yeah.
doctors, and they have a whole list of physicians and facilities that are willing to prescribe ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, and we got him a visit. It took a couple days, like 2.5 days, until they could have a discussion with us. But there's a dispensary or a pharmacy in Salem that that they called the prescription into in Salem, New Hampshire. There's only a few in the country that they could use, because I guess they're just not really allowed to dispense it.
Unbelievable.
Or like the rest of us, you get it from India.
Yeah. But you know, what does that tell you right there? It's like, why is this so hard to get? Is this because they really have your best interest at heart? You know, hey, if you're dying anyway, you're in the ICU, like this judge had to come in and say, no, you are going to give this man ivermectin. We just lost Chris Martin and Jennifer Martin. I don't know if you guys are aware of this on this link through Proactive Health Collective of Teen, but Chris was really medically kidnapped in Lebanon, and his wife was banned. And I mean, it was a debacle, and he died. She was begging for hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin. He was in there. There's no reason not to allow these things to be used. If the person's going to die anyway, what is the problem? The problem is, if these things are shown to work, and they do, guess what? The whole vaccine industry surrounding this would collapse. There is no way they can justify the emergency use only if there is a valid treatment for COVID. And so this is what drives that. The one that is FDA approved is not out on the market. Nobody's getting it. If you think you're getting Pfizer and it's been fully FDA approved, you're not getting Comirnaty. That's the one that's FDA approved. You're still getting the one that Pfizer says right now, they need 55 years to reveal all of their research data on this. They say there's almost 400,000 pages, but there's no way they could possibly release more than 500 pages a month. And that would take them 55 years to tell you what's in there. And you want to do that. You want to, get your COVID and get over it. Figure out, follow, recommendations we're making, others are making. Protect yourself, figure out how to handle this when you get it, get your natural immunity, because, I don't want a heart attack. I don't want cancer. I don't want Alzheimer's disease. I don't want a stroke. I don't want my immune system going, and I don't want any of the things that nobody knows what is going to happen there. Somebody was telling my daughter, kids, they're now showing that children who get COVID are going to have very long lasting effects from the COVID moving forward. And she said, I love my daughter. She's like a lot like me, but she's like, wait a minute, COVID's only been around for 2 years. So how do you know what's going to be long-term? How does anybody know what's going to be long-term for kids who got COVID?
Yeah, or kids who got vaccinated.
Yeah, but can we just ask an obvious question? Like, how are you making predictions about how a child having COVID is going to affect them 10 years down the road when this virus, there's no data for that. This virus is 2 years young. So, people, you say stuff like this and people are just like, yeah, that makes sense.
I think one of the big elephants in the room here is that when this first started to go down, of course, we've talked about this, Rebecca, we saw the writing on the wall. And it exposes really the poor health of the country, because if people were healthy, it wouldn't be anything, right? Because that's why some people, and who knows what's happening now with spike proteins and shedding, and who knows what people are getting now. But from the beginning, it's like some people would not even know they had it, right? And what's the difference? Well, the difference is level of health. Who are the people that it was became a morbidity, or mortality was people who had other comorbidities and basically poor health. And so you could look at this as like a wake-up call, like, wow, this really displays the health of this country. That's the real problem here. And of course, I'm pretty sure not one word from a mainstream source has said anything about this from the time, like, hey, maybe we should start looking at our overall health. Maybe we should stop eating so much sugar. Maybe we should take care of the heavy metals that are also immunosuppressive and start really looking at the big picture, because it's COVID now, but then it's something else down the road. And then it's something else down the road. If the general health of the population is poor, it'll be anything that comes down, that comes in the future, whether it's chemtrails or whether it's 5G or whether it's actual virus or not. The bottom line is, if we're an unhealthy population, we're going to display ill health. Yeah.
At some point, the medical system is going to have to talk about how to keep your body healthy. It's just,
I really think that I think that it has to, the only way is that it has to implode, which seems like that's what it's doing now, because when all the information gets out, and it will get out, about this debauchery here, it's going to kill their credibility even more. Like, those of us that know anyway, but most people, kind of think of medicine as religion. Like, doc said do this and I just do it. But once they realize how off it, I think it's going to open them up for a much more scrutiny. And maybe in the end, this is a good thing that will create a shift. People will wake up to the fact that, I just can't treat my body like hell, eat poorly, do everything poorly, get on statins and, all the other things. And then, that there's going to be a magical cure, remdesivir or something that's going to save me if I go to the hospital.
Right. And I think it's also important to know too, like, okay, so I have COVID, but I would say I'm in pretty darn good health. I think we don't need to be afraid to get things like this, get your natural immunity, that kind of thing. I've had a really good course of it, and I've mounted a good response to it. And I think that that's the thing too, is to understand that that's what herd immunity is all about. If we had just let this go, if we had from the get-go not pursued a vaccine and just let people not mask and not shut down the whole world and travel and everything else, people would get this. That's what it's all about, is it affects a certain amount of the population. The antibodies are built up. It happens all in the way that God intended through nature for this to happen. And so you have it happen correctly within your body. And then you become immune. And so you're not like a vehicle passing it, and more people. And that's just how it works. And we have totally messed that up here. We have totally created a monster that never needed to be.
Right. We would have been done with this a long time ago. That was my feeling from the very beginning. Like,
Yeah.
people who are vulnerable, yeah, you know what? Protect them and let everybody else get it, who it's going to be not a problem. And now you have your herd immunity and you're good to go. But that was not, that was not. And, that, like, speaking of that, like this whole thing and this ongoing philosophy, if you will, or strategy of let's keep our kids social distanced forever is a complete, it's going to be a complete destruction. I mean, because they're not able to build their immune systems, and what's going to happen when something does come along? They're not going to be equipped for it. So that's it's like when other parents say, "Oh, my kid's got a little sniffle," it's like, "All right, bring them over. Let's get together." Like, I want my kids to get their immune systems worked out. I don't want them to land up not having an immune system and having cancer.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, we've got to get on with regular life, and it's super important. And I hope, I just hope that people will put the brakes on. We're facing in Keene again. The Keene City Council met last night, and they were supposed to take up the mask mandates again in Keene for indoor, and they never got to it. But Don Caruso, who is our voice for Cheshire Medical Center here on COVID, is fully pulling for full mask mandate again. And so we need to resist that. Hey, look, I will say this, if I do think there's a lot of COVID out there because of the vaccinated. So if you feel that you're vulnerable or something, I'm not opposed to put a mask on if you're going into a store for a brief amount of time, and just, have that peace of mind or something, just that you have some sort of a barrier. But as far as, masking as a way of life, and by way of constraint, by way of compulsion, is ridiculous. Nobody told me I needed to stay away from people, right? Anybody with a modicum of common sense and understands that if you have something that you can pass to somebody else, you don't get around those. You don't go around people. You just don't. I don't need something that tells me it's this many days, or something that tells me, I have to do it or whatever. I need, we follow our common sense, and we always have. Just, if you're sick, you don't get out there and cough all over people. You just don't. So yeah, what we're doing to society is ridiculous. I hope that people, especially in this area, any of you guys who are listening who are in Keene, write to your city councilors. I think what happened was last night they never got to it. And I was texting John Michael DeMay, who was there at the meeting. And he said that they never got to it, and it's going to go into committee first next week, which I think will be a closed session. So we need to keep our freedoms, and at the same time. Now, I do want to say, when Jean was saying, and I do know Jean out and Kathy out in Missouri. So hi you guys. What happened to all the influenza cases? I will say this. This is not like influenza, and you know it. There's no I don't have any question that maybe I had the flu and I think it's COVID. No, they behave very differently. So you're going to know, if you know anything about COVID symptoms, you will know if you have COVID or the flu, and it doesn't require a test. I'm not on the bandwagon of everybody getting tested, everything they do. Oh, I was at a party and somebody tested positive. Should I get a test? I have that email this morning from somebody. No, just watch if you're getting symptoms. And if you are, then do this, but no, don't run out and get tested because somebody you were with got a positive test. Goodness, this is crazy, 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 crazy.
The sense of taste and smell is really, it's really unmistakable. It's very bizarre.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's a little
Yeah.
weird too. It's definitely a little weird to feel like it's kind of neurological changes like that. It's a little scary.
Yeah.
It still hasn't come back. It's not. It's getting a little bit better every day, but it's still barely there.
Now, is that for Ben, you mean?
No, for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you, I read on that, I would try, look up lipoic acid. And I like to use the R-lipoic acid. It's more bioavailable than alpha lipoic acid, but I did see that as being a possibility for helping that come back faster, the lipoic acid. Lipoic acid is a super antioxidant. It's a mitochondrial energy booster, but it also recycles all of your other antioxidants like E and C. And so it's a very, very versatile compound. And so I would say that, but I did, Allison, see that with just, I didn't see it like, oh, this works like a charm, but I saw something about that. I am just so glad, like I told you, like I had that smell. It was almost like, I don't mean to be gross, but almost like cow manure, this faint smell of like cow manure all the time. And then when I went to smell my skin, it was even stronger. I almost felt like it was coming off my skin.
Yeah.
And, thank God that started to wane over the weekend. Every now and then, I think I get a slight sense of it, but I almost also think that I'm imagining it because I can remember it so vividly,
Right.
But I know because I went outside last night. And when you have something like that going on, when it was really real, you walk outside, it's like when you take a sip of coffee and you walk outside, all of a sudden the taste is that much more brilliant. Like when I walked outside when it was really happening, oh my gosh, it was so strong. And last night when I went out, I didn't notice it at all. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and those are the things that are really, because those are the things that they say are the long lasters for a lot of people. It's like you can get over everything else, but it's kind of like that fatigue. And then if you've had that alteration of taste and smell, that can go on for a long time. And of course that ruins your quality of life because
Yeah.
food is supposed to taste good. Things are supposed to taste good.
It really zaps the joy out of a lot of things.
Maybe that'd be a good thing for some people, depending on what your eating
Yeah,
habits
I
are.
feel like I caught up on so much stuff I just wanted to catch up on, and I also feel like it's just really slowed me down, which has been very welcome. I think it's been a good upgrade.
On that note, I have to say, now I've always said, because I'm self-employed, I can never take vacation. I can't take vacation. I have to be here all the time. There's no way, and I could not be there. And it's not like I didn't, sounds like my husband's dying of coughing in there. It's not like I didn't work. I did. I mean, it was great. I was able to do everything remotely, but my staff was there. Now, but if I were to say, I'm going to take a vacation, so I'm not going to schedule any clients for this week at all. And I'm going to make sure anything I need to order or whatever, but my staff can do this. Guess what? I'm the only one who can mix the formulas, right? Because I know I do it kind of like I like a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. Well, I'm not there to mix formulas. I'm like, just mix the damn formula. And, on the Formula C Plus, I usually use a little bit more Powderco and cat's claw than other things. But I'm like, you know what, Becky, let some of this go. You don't have to do everything yourself, and your staff is so wonderfully capable. And so for me, it was like a real eye opener. I'm like, yeah, you know what, I can be out of the office. I really can. And so that's been kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gifts in the challenges, right? There's always gifts and challenges.
Yeah. So I will be putting together, personally, I'm going to be putting together another page, kind of sorting out all of the things that I've talked about as far as what I understand for nutrients and things like that, and how they affect COVID with, with references and things where people can actually see the science there. And I'll be putting that forward in some form definitely in my newsletter. So if you don't subscribe to my newsletter, wondrousroots.org, you can do it right there. And I'll be doing it through Rise Up New Hampshire. It'll be on their website too. And you'll be able to, contact me personally too, either through email or whatever contact. But I want to update that. And again, everybody doesn't have to do everything, but you need to do something that addresses the vulnerabilities that come with this infection in every aspect. So you don't want to just go after the blood clotting and not deal with, what do I want to say, the spike protein locking into the RS2 receptors and things like that. If you can get or mitochondrial energy, if you can get something going on for each of those things, you're going to be much better off as a whole to deal with having the virus itself and then also its various effects in the body.
Yeah. You know what I did that was really helpful, I think, too, is the Alpha Biocentrics antioxidant patch.
Oh, okay.
Helped a lot with my energy levels. Yeah, it's a frequency sort of. It's like a little matrix, like a carbon matrix that they imprint a frequency. So it works almost like homeopathy, and then you stick it to your shoulder. But it helps sort of utilize the antioxidants in your body.
Well, now that you mentioned that, okay, so guess which ones I'm using?
Oh, which ones?
I put on alkalis because alkalization is one of the problems with the COVID. One of the things that the spike protein does is it turns the interstitial fluids of the body acidic. So keeping the body alkalized. So if you're doing that without using a patch like I'm using, one of the big things for that is fruits and vegetables. Do your fruits and vegetable juices. These are alkalizing foods. So alkalinity is really important. They have a new patch for systemic inflammation. So I am using that one because I think inflammation is part of this whole thing. And then their MitoCell patch, which is programmed with frequencies of all the mitochondrial energy boosting things. And they have one that is the immune system. So boosting the immune system. So kind of when I'm all patched up, I've got several patches on. And they support the system, in that way that Allison was saying through the carbon energy, and very safe, but things that you can do like that to help as well.
I might put those on my boyfriend while he's sleeping. I'll never know.
Yeah. You never know they're there, and nobody's looking in the mirror backwards, it's like, so. And yeah, so I don't know. I guess we're coming up on any last. Well, I did have this question Q&A. Rebecca, can we come by your office and get some COVID remedies to have on hand? Yes, and you can go by. My office is open today. My staff is well acquainted with the things that I recommend for that, and you can definitely do that. And yeah, you do want to have a little bit of a toolkit. John Michael had said to me, you should sell a kit. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not like, here, buy your kit. Here's COVID, get your kit. But I do think in some cases, people do want that type of make it easy. I just want to get it and, have it, let it come with instructions. So I might be working on something like that just to make it easy. So people don't have to worry so much about picking and choosing. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
That's good.
Thank you for all of your wisdom and research, and Dr. James. It's nice to have you guys in our community.
Thanks for sharing your experiences, Allison and Rebecca.
Yeah. So wish everybody well. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. And we will be back in 2 weeks. I believe it will be the third week in December, will it? So that's kind of how we do it, the first and the third. Yep. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
That'll be the 17th, just before Christmas week. So
Great.
Actually, yes. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yes, perfect. That falls wonderfully. All right, so I guess we will say goodbye. Have a wonderful weekend, and thanks again for joining us. Take care.
everyone, take care.
Bye.
Bye.